as a comedian, I think most comedians will agree with me in saying that if you say comedy and sexual assault, everyone pauses. We go like, I don't know. I'll talk about escalators first, and I'll try and get to that. What made you think that you could be part of making a film that used comedy as a tool to discuss one of the issues that has, I mean, from the Me Too movement and even before that, been one of the most important conversations to have in society?
Well, it was really the strength of the writing and meeting Emerald Fennell, who was our director. You know, the hardest things in life we often can only get through by using humor. You know, some moments of your life that are completely tragic are marked by moments of, you know, kind of comedy and hysterical giggling, you know, the kind of part of you that wants to laugh at a funeral because you just don't know how to cope with your, it feels very much like life. And I think the main thing with this story is that it's not a fantasy. It's based on experiences that so many of us know, people who've been through them, and trying to be honest about that, but also recognizing that that if you want to talk about this kind of stuff and you want people to think about this kind of stuff, you know, there are ways of doing it that entice an audience. You know, this is a film that I think you want to see as opposed to one that you feel like you should see.
You play a character whose friend is the victim of, a childhood friend really, is the victim of sexual assault. And it leads us into a story of revenge and justice, really. Do you think there's a sense of catharsis that was intended in writing the script? Is it meant in some ways to be the movie for people who say, like, you know what, I've experienced this, I've had a friend who's experienced this, and this helps me feel a different way about it or see my feelings from a different point of view?
I mean, definitely from talking to people, there's been a sense of catharsis. I think also just like, you know, for me, smashing up a car, which you see, it's really fun, and it does definitely helps. But I think, I mean, if that's people's experience, I think that's great. But I think the conversation I think that Emerald was sort of hoping to create would be something that went further into the kind of cultural conversation, and that, you know, these situations that happen in our film have happened in so many comedies, bro comedies, you know, films where a guy will try and lose his virginity in a nightclub, right, at any expense, or, you know, try and identify the most drunk girl, or, you know, so these are things that we've watched and we've kind of laughed at and has been so normalized in our culture for so long. So it's not so much as sort of course it touches on that stuff, but it's not so much pointing blame or sort of assigning people villainous roles. It's more, how have we all been complicit in this? It does give people an opportunity to sort of experience this stuff through a different lens, because we're so used to seeing this kind of stuff told from the perspective of the boy or the man, or, you know, and right, it through, you know, the perspective of the very drunk girl in the corner, except in this situation she's actually stone cold sober.
How did you begin to embody Fred the way that you did? Like, what did you look for in him that helped you bring him to life in this movie?
You know what it is, Trevor? I was in a space where I would watch his speeches and be aware of how I was feeling as a result of it. You know what I'm saying? And going how I was feeling moved and that. So then I was like, oh, my goal is to occupy his spiritual space, that position. Saying, and go, I want to move the audience in the way that he is moving me at this moment. You know, I don't really know the words for that feeling that I felt, but I knew I felt it. And I said, but I knew I was able to occupy it. And I was like, all right, cool, let me just go there. Let me have that as my aspiration in terms of this. And that's kind of, it's kind of like, you're a vessel in those situations. In certain scenes, we're saying his actual words. I mean, you can't help but let the words tell you how to play it. Let the words tell you how to be.
The voice. Talk me through the voice and how important that was, because I feel like Get Out was all about the eyes. You know, you made those eyes come alive. It felt like that was the whole story, and it felt like in this, a lot of Fred is that voice.
Yeah, the voice was everything in approaching it. So then when I started dialect work with Audrey Lacrone, amazing dialect coach, it was a real challenge. And but also another thing as well, I had to really watch my voice because I'm not classically trained. Well, how I arrived to acting was a very raw improv way. Yeah, I had a tendency when I did plays to kind of just go and just lead with emotion, but damage my voice. And I knew on this one I couldn't afford to. You know what I'm saying? Because you're doing 12-hour days with just doing speeches. So Audrey said, yo, you should look into a singing coach. So I found an opera singing coach.
Wow.
I sat down with an opera singing coach. And then because I love the way opera singers commanded the space. And I saw sonically, Chairman Fred felt like that. You know, how he occupied a room. You know, he just occupied it. And because of the amount I was doing, I needed to engage my diaphragm and condition my vocal cords for those kind of days. And so I would do gospel songs, and I would do songs that felt like Chairman Fred's speeches. Then I would do the speeches, and then I was studying cadence, because he had a different cadence to when he spoke, to a different cadence to when he did speeches.
Right.
So it's like identifying, defining those differences, but also feeling like the same person. It's kind of like there was a kind of, but also it was, for me, it was, what was the speech patterns was like a clue into his thought patterns.
Ramy is must-watch viewing. What has that journey been like for you, from going, creating a show about a Muslim millennial in New Jersey and the Muslim world as a comedy, to now being a show that people just go like, yeah, this is normal? Because let's be honest, it wasn't normal like a few years ago when you decided to do this.
No, and it still really shocks me. Like, there are definitely moments where people are talking about the show a lot. It's getting a lot of recognition. People are excited about it. And I'm like, really, guys, this is a show about like an Arab Muslim dude that watches too much porn. Like, I can't believe that this many people are looking at it. The thing that's probably most overwhelming is the international love. Because I think like here it's like awesome, whatever, we got publicists and all this. But for me, when my aunt calls me and she's like, Egypt watching the show, and I'm like, have you seen it? And she's like, not yet. And I'm like, thank God. But she's like, I hear the kids are watching it. I'm like, good, it's just let them watch it. That's really special.
I think what I found special about the show, and this is probably what connects to so many people, is it's not just the story of an Arab Muslim kid growing up in New Jersey. It's also the story of a community that for so long has been seen through one lens. Man, you take us into a world where we see human beings, we see the complexities of Islam, we see the complexities of different generations and how they relate to the religion and then the cultures that come. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. Was there ever a part of you that was afraid to either tell the story incorrectly to an outside audience or piss off the inside audience?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the tightrope walk that we're constantly walking with this show, because we haven't really had any chance at seeing ourselves on screen in a story that doesn't involve explosives or national security. To your question about was I nervous, where I'm really nervous, because I know that Muslims are such a vast group of people. There are many communities. People even say, like, what does the Muslim community think about your show? And I'm like, it's not a pop band. Like, there are a lot of different Muslim communities. Like, it's not just this one thing. And so we, kind of made the choice pretty early on that, like, we're not going to try and check all the boxes. This isn't a census. This isn't a totality of something that can't be encompassed, really. This is just the story of this family. And we're really going to kind of humanize them by watching them deal with their problems in the way that everyone does.
What makes the show successful for me is that it follows the golden rule of telling a story, and that is showing the human beings who exist within the story. What I loved was how, even in your story, the Ramy that you play, when he went to Egypt, he himself realized that he had stereotypes and connotations of his own family in Egypt in a way that he didn't even realize. To take it to Egypt and then have like an Egyptian family who are fans of Donald Trump, and all of America's going, Donald Trump's the worst president, and here you have Arabs somewhere in the world saying, this guy's the best guy, even though he wants to ban all Muslims. Why was that so important for you to do?
And I remember being in the back of a cab in Cairo in 2015, and this guy just being like, he's a strong man. And I was like, whoa, all right. I think we're just used to dictators, and he just kind of matches the vibe. But he's not what we need. We know he's not. And I think most of us feel that on a certain, with a certain clarity. And I think something that I really wanted to do in making a story about a family we hadn't seen before was I wanted to be clear that I'm not trying to make something that's some sort of like PR hit to make us look good and make it seem like, hey, we deserve to be in this country. Give us a shot. Like, look how cute we are on Ramy on Hulu, that's not a real portrayal. That's like propaganda in and of itself. You know, for me, it's how do I make something that is challenging my character, that is putting him in situations where he's seeing his own biases, he's seeing his flaws, and that really gets highlighted when he goes to Cairo. Because I think the show is more about someone trying to fill the gap between who they want to be and who they actually are than it is a show about Muslims.
Billie Holiday people might know as the musician, but what makes this film special is you show us Billie Holiday as the civil rights icon, as this woman who is fighting against the system that is trying to shut her down. Tell me a little bit more about that story and the part of her life that a lot of people really don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to put it frankly, it's the part of her life that people were never supposed to know about. People need to understand that the reason they know Billie Holiday as this sort of tragic drug addict, but like a great jazz singer, is because that was the narrative that was fed to us as a people. And but what they really need to know is that she was sort of the genesis. She was the great godmother of civil rights. She was the first martyr in the war on drugs. She was singing "Strange Fruit," a song about lynching in America, racial tension, in defiance of the government, and she was integrating audiences. You know, she was a fighter and doing it all on her own. We did not have the civil rights movement as we know it today, and we would not have had it if it wasn't for her sacrifice. So she is a hero.
She's a hero because she went up against arguably the most powerful force in the world at one time, and maybe even now, the United States government. You know, it's a really scary story. Talk me through your role and what it was like for you to play this woman who, on one hand, is this amazing icon who's performing and really enthralling audiences, and on the other hand, a woman who is dealing with her fears, her insecurities, and the dark world that she's a part of, whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that just now, whether she's a part of it or not, because one of the things I hear all the time is, you know, Billie Holiday was a very complicated figure. And I'm like, there's nothing complicated about a Black queer woman trying to live free. What's complicated is her circumstances. She's in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. The entire government is using all of their force. And as you said, one of the most powerful forces and one of the most powerful figures. And I think it's the stage J. Edgar Hoover, right? And one of probably the most diabolical and divisive. But, you know, him, Harry J. Anslinger, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, you know, the entire U.S. government is coming after her for singing a song about racial terror. And that she lost her father to Jim Crow, right? That she was raped at 10 and was punished for being raped by a 40-year-old man.
Right.
She was sent into a brothel, was raised in a brothel, you know, that drugs were pumped into her community. And she used that as a way to deal with the trauma of living. So there was nothing complex about her. She was beautiful and fascinating. She was in very complex circumstances. And so it made me appreciate her and love her. And there was a sense of urgency, you know,
Right.
Performing this role and singing. You know, when I was on your show and when I was doing it in the cast, it was to pay homage to Billie and to pay homage to our people and to just bring this song into a new era. But on set, it was very different. And it was the first time I sang the song and realized this is not a beautiful song. This is an ugly song. It's a horrific song. The bulging eyes, the twisted mouth, the burning flesh. And I had a need for people in the audience to stop enjoying it. I didn't want them clapping. I didn't want them, this is an ugly song. Go do something, because I might die after singing this tonight. And so it was definitely a different experience, transformative, really.
A brand new film on Netflix, The Prom. I had to pause it a few times because I was very uncomfortable, because it's like all these people dancing and touching each other and speaking close, like it's very non-coronavirus times. And I was just like, this is, whew, I felt triggered. I felt triggered many times. I had to pause. But you shot this movie, and what I loved about the film was, at first I was like, wait, what's going on here? Because this is Meryl Streep and this is James Corden, but like they're being very weird right now. And then I realized that the whole play it's a really beautiful, almost satirical take on celebrities and on Broadway and on like people on the coast who think they're superior to people in the middle of America. And it's this fun story where you and Meryl Streep play these actors who are so used to being self-absorbed and in yourselves and succeeding, and then you hit failure head on for the first time. Tell me what it was like making this movie, because you filmed it before coronavirus, and then you had to come back and finish it during coronavirus.
Well, I'd actually shot all of my stuff before it shut down. The film is a an adaptation of a show that was on Broadway
Right.
about 2 years ago, 18 months ago, and I saw the show, and it's a joyous sort of big silly musical, really, that then becomes about something very, very real. And I love those moments where it pokes fun at the at sort of faux activism. You know, I think those bits are really great fun. And Meryl Streep and I play two Broadway stars, myself a lesser Broadway star than her, who've devoted their entire lives to the theatre. And it starts in this big sort of broad world of New York, and basically they hear a story about a girl in Indiana who has been told she can't attend her prom because she's gay. And they think if we go down there and we get involved, we'll look so woke. People will think that we're good people, and that will get us back on top again. And then it really becomes about, it's a film about acceptance, really. It's a film about the notion that love is love and all of our hearts beat the same, you know, and I'm very, very proud to be part of it. I really am. It was a joy to make, and I'm so thrilled so many people are enjoying it.
One night in Miami, 4 legends. What did you think that you could tell in the story that would just give us, I guess, a reimagining of who all these people are?
Yeah, I think more than anything for me, while we know that this night actually happened, the conversations are imagined by Kemp Powers, who wrote the script, who is an amazing writer. He also co-wrote and directed Soul. So he's kind of out there making big things happen. But I think for me, it was that he put conversations that Black people, Black men have been having for so long into the mouths of these larger than life men.
Right.
Who we know just throughout interviews, definitely have the opinions that are expressed in our film. So for me, I was like, wow, to be able to humanize them in a way that they are speaking for so many men. It was just grabbed me, just jumped out off the page at me.
Yeah, I mean, you've made a film about people who each have a film about their own lives. That's how powerful and momentous their existence was on this planet. You know, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, all in one room on one night, having a conversation about their visions for the future and the way they see the world and the way they see life. Now, I know that this was also a play, and I know that taking a play and turning it into a film can often be a really daunting task, because, you know, a play has everyone there sitting in one place, and you don't have to do much because that's the forum, that's the platform. You have to direct to make one space feel like it's going somewhere. Talk me through some of those challenges and how you thought about making a movie that doesn't go anywhere and yet takes us everywhere.
Well, I think the dialogue was the star of the film to me. And, you know, so Kemp did all of that heavy lifting. And I just always felt like the right actors, powerful actors who really understood what they were taking on would be half the battle, you know, right there. And then from there, just I wanted to get out of the way of the story, you know, like, sure, I wanted it to be a visual experience, but not so much that the camera would distract. So yeah, just lots of conversations and preparation ahead of time to just allow the dialogue to be the star and allow everything else to just kind of cradle that dialogue and just allow the audience to sit there in it and be there with these men.
When you were playing James Comey, what were you trying to give us as the viewer in terms of being for him or against him in terms of what decisions he was making?
I remember back in October 2016 when it was announced that they were going to reopen the investigation. And I remember thinking something like, what is he thinking? What is he doing? I mean, we were 2 days away. Billy Bush's bus ride had been like the day before. Right. WikiLeaks was making noise about 33,000 emails they were going to leak, which was what Comey had to deal with. Does he get out in front of that? Because Giuliani's going to leak it. and so to protect the integrity of the FBI, he did that. That's what you find out. You find out that he was between a rock and a hard place, and he couldn't punt. He had to decide, and there was no easy decision. And any time that a political opinion would come in, whether through his team that was trying to help him make the decision, he had to swat it away because it had to stay an apolitical decision, which I was unaware of, that he worked real hard to push back against the right and also the left. He had to stay true to the rule of law, to the institution of the Department of Justice, the integrity of the FBI. These are all things that are bigger than Jim Comey. And he looks at them like someone would look at their religion. And that was his North Star. And he made his decisions based on those things, and everyone else is thinking politically. And that kind of jumped out at me.
One thing I've always enjoyed about, talking to an actor behind the scenes is learning how they discover a part of a human being that we didn't get to see in the public eye. What were some of the things that you discovered about the man that we never got to see because we were looking at the agent?
Jim Comey was accused of being self-righteous and a Boy Scout, and his right was bigger than your right, and his morality was bigger than. And I, certainly if you disagreed with his decision or you were looking at it politically, I can see how you would go to that, because he was going, no, I'm going to serve something bigger. But the other thing that I learned about him, and it's even more so in contrast to Trump, is that Jim Comey at the bottom is honest, decent, open, will tell you the truth, compassionate, cares about other people, is self-effacing, is humble, certainly ambitious, but not to the point of trampling over people. That's when you look at that, and you look at Comey Rule and you see an example of that. And it's not Boy Scout, it's not Pollyanna. It's who the guy is. It's what he believes. And it's shocking to see that, because we've had 4 years of the opposite. And you want to put something on the ballot? Put decency on the ballot. Put compassion on the ballot. Put caring about someone other than yourself on the ballot, or your political party. I'd like to see that. Jim Comey is a good example of that. As a former Republican, by the way. That's what he used to be. I don't know what he is now.
I've learned so many things about you from this Apple Plus documentary. Like, I didn't know that you went to coach a football team in England. Explain this story to me, because I was watching this documentary and I was like, man, this is crazy. Jason Sudeikis just went to England. I don't even know when you went. And all of a sudden you were coaching a British football team, AFC Richmond. I hadn't even heard of them. I was like, this is an amazing story.
Okay, I see what's going on now. Yeah, that's a television program. That's actually not a documentary. You might be thinking of All or Nothing on Amazon, but the thing on Apple Plus, that's a narrative show that we wrote. And I'm acting. I'm doing like a funny voice. They call me Ted Lasso, right? That's not my name.
Oh, so that's like in soccer, people have names like Ronaldinho. That's not his name. I mean,
I think that is his name. I'm pretty sure that
it's like a nickname. It's like Pele. His name's not Pele. No one's named Pele.
It's
like Pele Johnson. It's not. That's not his name.
Pele
Gershberg. But there was real. No, dude, you're trying to. I see what you're doing. Jason Sudeikis messing with me. No. I see what you're doing. No,
this is very flattering.
I'll tell you how I know it's a documentary, because I saw there's fans in the crowd. It's real soccer matches.
No, they call those SAs, supporting actors in the UK. We call them extras here. One of the many cultural differences that we explore on the television program, which you watch, which is not a documentary.
So, okay, wait, let me get this straight. So are you saying everybody in the show is an actor?
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
Like everybody is an actor? The players are actors?
Yes.
You are acting?
The owner of the
team, yes. The owner of the team is acting?
100%.
And the fans are acting?
Yes. Oh boy, are they ever? Yeah, they were probably watching little to nothing. They're probably the best actors of the bunch.
How did you make it seem like there were giant soccer matches happening if there weren't giant soccer matches happening?
Right. Okay. Well, we hired people to pretend to be the other teams. We hired, people to pretend to be part of Man City, Manchester City. We hired cameramen, to film it.
Jason, I know how TV is made. I'm not an idiot, okay?
I don't know what more to tell you here.
So what is the story about? It's about Ted Lasso. Is that his name, Ted Lasso? And he's this American guy who goes to England to become a coach of a team, and he knows nothing about the sport?
Yeah, bingo. You got it. That's it. How much of it did you end up watching?
The whole thing.
And you thought it was a doc? I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I was like, it got renewed for a second season. I was like, of course it gets renewed for a second season. I was like, we want to see more of where this ends up. Because I was like, I want to see how Jason Sudeikis coaches a team during a pandemic. Your show is made in such a real, heartfelt way that I thought it was a documentary. And I'm willing to take that. I'm the kind of person in therapy. I've learned that I can admit when I've made a mistake. My ego doesn't block me. I made a mistake. Right. I'm sorry that your show is so amazing that I thought it was a documentary. I'm sorry. I just think maybe you should say that to the people when they click on the thing, when they start watching it. You should be like, please know this is a fake show. Because like with Game of Thrones, because there's dragons, I'm like, this is probably not a real show. But then when I watch a show about a soccer guy and it's you, and then like, do you know what I mean?
I do get it. There is a big difference there.
It's not like you speak in a British accent. You're American.
100%. I'm super American.
Right. Your voice is a little different, but I just thought like maybe you're trying to like ingratiate yourself to them or something. That's what I thought was happening.
Putting it on a little bit. Yeah, like you do. Yeah, no, I get that. We did fake stuff inside real stuff. Kind of like
you see,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes, you see. Now I'm as we say in therapy, we may have missed each other on the freeway, but we were both driving on the same road. Not many people can say that they had coronavirus in December of 2019. Talk me through a little bit of that journey.
Sure. We were in Bangkok and filming The Flight Attendant. And actually it was the last of November. And I just immediately hit me like a ton of bricks. Knew something was wrong. I was feverish. I had a horrible cough. It felt like someone was stepping on my chest, and I was very lethargic, and I was very scared. And when I was on set, I kept laying down in between takes. Actually, Kaylee Cuckoo Instagrammed a picture of me laying on bed. She came and laid on the bed with me. Nothing happened. But anyway. So they called the doctor on set because I became that weak. And the doctor said that I had to rush to the emergency room immediately. Wow. And when I got there, it was like a movie. I mean, they took my vitals in the waiting room, and then all of a sudden, all these people came with all the PPE, and rushed me in. And I was getting scared. And the executive producer, Meredith Lavender, had come with me, as well as my manager, Tariq Karanathani. And they're wheeling me in on a gurney. And I said, oh my God. And then Tariq said, can I go with her? And she said, are you kin? He said, no. And I was like, oh, stupid, you shouldn't say yes. And so then Meredith says, I'm her sister. Now, Meredith is blonde and blue-eyed, typical looking white woman. And the doctor looked at me and I go, in-law. And they let her come in, surprisingly so. But she couldn't come in the room that they quarantined me in. Right. And the emergency room doctor had told me they put 2 IVs. One was a red bag of I don't know what, and the other one was your standard IV. And she was asking me, is it okay if I said, give me everything. And I told her, I said, I feel like I'm dying. And she said, well, we think that you have this new respiratory tract infection that we don't know exactly what it is, but it is coming from China. And wow. A lot of tourists are getting it, but we don't know exactly what it is. But we do know that it's rapid in the destruction of your body. And I just closed my eyes, and I remember seeing just my husband and my sister and my father, who's deceased. And I said, oh my God, don't let me die in Bangkok. And she laughed and she goes, you're not going to die. I said, you just told me that doomsday is upon my soul. And yeah, so they fixed me up, well enough that I was able to finally leave the emergency room. And I remember her last words to me was, never go outside, never stand in front of another person without a mask. You're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting others. That's why I have my mask on with you, because I don't want you to make me sick. And what you have is very, very serious. And I said, but what is it? What's the name? She goes, well, we don't know yet.
It really is amazing that you not only recovered that, but then made it a mission to educate other people about how to stay safe. I mean, you're a lifelong New Yorker. When you agreed to go to press conferences with Governor Cuomo, when you agreed to be part of these briefings, when you agreed to be part of this, what were you hoping to help achieve for New York as a whole?
For them to wake up, to understand how deadly and how serious this was, and that we had to respect each other. Just like that doctor said to me in Bangkok, I wanted New Yorkers to respect one another. I wanted Americans to respect one another by wearing a mask. It's just that simple. I've helped the governor with other things, like with his Hurricane Maria relief and all of that stuff. But for him to call me, I said, wow, I told my husband, I said, isn't that crazy how the world works?
Right.
And when I was there at that press conference, I was holding back the emotions. I really was, because I didn't want to have that be the focus. Oh my God.
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean.
I just wanted to be very adult, very mature, and say, listen, man, this is real. Mask up. It's as simple as that. If that can help, do it.
You have this amazing ability to play characters where you're a good person who is not doing the right thing, but we want you to not do the right thing because we're in touch with the humanity of the person that we are watching. When you're playing these characters, I really want to know how you get into doing that. How do you learn to love them so that we can love them and their flaws, and then start supporting them committing crimes? Because you make us support people who commit crimes. That's what you do.
That's what I do. That's my stock and trade. It's true. I learned early on that when you're going through maturation and you're in middle school or high school, and someone does something embarrassing or humiliating, you laugh at them. That was because you're glad it wasn't you. But beyond that, when you mature, human beings are really lovely at heart. The foundational sense of a human being, if they see someone humiliated or embarrassed or vulnerable, they don't want to laugh at them. They want to wrap their arms around them. They want to protect them. And so that's the beauty of portraying someone like this, or Walter White, or someone who is trying to do the right thing, but is flawed. So an audience, knowing that they are imperfect themselves, gets that upon the characters, saying, my God, I don't think I would have done anything differently. I would have done something like that. So they instantly relate to you. And then I hope that they do. I take them by the hand and I say, let me take you for a ride. Come on, I'll tell you a story. And you go and you take them on a journey that sometimes they want to shake loose of, but they cannot. They're compelled to continue on that journey.